Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to talk about the compliance requirement varying by service like EC2, RDS, and Lambda. EC2 is nothing but your self-managed service. You have RDS, which is coming under the container service, and Lambda coming under the managed service. Okay, so now here EC2 is basically called as Elastic Cloud Compute. So that's basically the compliance responsibility over here. AWS has responsibility of managing the underlying infrastructure, including your physical hardware, network storage, and hypervisor. AWS is responsible for maintaining security and compliance for infrastructure on which the EC2 runs on. In terms of customer responsibility, the operating system is something which is customer responsible for patching, securing the operating system like Linux, Windows, etc. Installed application on the EC2 instance. So you have to take care of that. And in terms of application level security, you must manage and secure your application running on your instances. Whatever the application you're running on should be secured by yourself. And in terms of data encryption, you should control whether your data stored on the instance or attached to storage devices like EBS volumes or S3, which you're using, should be encrypted, and you need to take care of that. In terms of IAM and access control, you must ensure the proper IAM rules and security groups are applied to control who can access your EC2 instance and what kind of access they can give. So that's something which you have to take care of. So these are something which is the responsibility shared between in terms of compliance requirements. In terms of AWS RDS, okay, so if you're using RDS as a managed, your relational database service, it's an autonomous service which actually automates the task of backing up, patching, scaling, and database software management. Okay. Now, AWS responsibility in this case is that AWS manages the database infrastructure, including the underlying hardware, you know, database engine patching, backups, maintenance task, which is like automated failovers and stuff like that. AWS ensures that the security and compliance of the infrastructure running on the database engine, so they take care of that. In terms of customer responsibility, database configuration, making sure that you're responsible for configuring database, including access control, data encryption, database schema. All these things are the customer responsibility in terms of configuration. Data security, you must secure the data, like ensuring the encryptions at rest, like KMS or other methods, and encryption in transit using SSL and TLS. So the in terms of IAM permission, the item remains the same. So it's basically you need to control who is accessing this particular service, their IAM roles and stuff. In terms of Lambda service over here, you actually have something of a responsibility of, I mean, the AWS has the responsibility of managing the entire infrastructure, including patching, scaling, and securing the whole environment. AWS ensures that the serverless environment is secure and compliant, including the automated patching of underlying infrastructure. When you talk about the customer responsibility, you need to make sure that the code is secure, where you're responsible for securing the application code, ensuring that the best practices of any kind of coding is possible while creating the code, like to avoid, uh, you know, input validation, to avoid code injections and stuff like that. In terms of data security, if you use Lambda functions processing sensitive data, you must be responsible for ensuring the data is encrypted and handled securely. IAM permission is almost the same, where you configure proper IAM roles and permissions for Lambda functions to control access to AWS services like S3 and DynamoDB. So to have a kind of like a summary over here of the compliance. I'm sorry. Compliance responsibilities across services. AWS EC2 instance is very simple, straightforward. AWS responsibility is to manage physical infrastructure and virtualization layer. Customer responsibility is to manage operating system patching, application security, data encryption. In terms of AWS RDS or any kind of a container services, you have the AWS responsible for database engine, patching, backups, and everything else for the container. But when it comes to the customer responsibility, we need to make sure that we configure the correct database settings, data security, and access control. And when it comes to Lambda, just to summarize, so it's going to be managed, AWS manages the infrastructure, runtime, environment automatically. And customer secures the application code, data handling, and IAM permissions. Comes as a very much important stuff. Now, in terms of one more point, which we're going to see is that real-time example for this particular situation, like for compliance with regulations such as HIPAA, running an EC2 instance hosted on a sensitive health data means that you're responsible for encrypting the data at the rest and in transit of the securing the operating system and applying the security patches regularly, ensuring that the infrastructure hosted on your instances is compliant, but you handle the operating system and the application compliance. So do remember, more responsibility comes in terms of EC2 on a real-time basis. Now, when you compare the same real-time basis in terms of RDS, okay, so let's talk about a sensitive financial information which is kept here on the RDS or in the relational database service by Amazon. Now, you are required to comply with the PCI DSS, which is a compliance certificate. You must ensure that the RDS instance is configured to encrypt data at rest using KMS, and the connections to the database are secure with SSL and TLS. AWS manages the database engine, and it ensures that that this engine is patched and secured. But the responsibility of data and configuration lies with the customer. Now, finally, we are going to look at the real-time situation. So for Lambda services or services where GDPR compliance is requirement, making sure that you process the user data through Lambda function. AWS is responsible for managing the underlying infrastructure and ensure it is secure. However, you can or you must ensure that the code does not violate data privacy regulations and that any secure I'm sorry that any sensitive data which is being processed by Lambda is encrypted and stored securely. So these are some of the things which you need to do in terms of the uh, compliance requirement for your three different services. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.